to my channel, Learn with Riyaa. Learning is knowledge, and today we are going to be learning about the COVID vaccine. Obviously, this pandemic has greatly affected all of our lives, and the COVID vaccine has just come out pretty recently. A lot of people have had many questions about this vaccine and have had a lot of concerns. So today I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Rajesh Rangaswamy, a neurointerventionalist, and we are going to discuss what a virus is and what it does to your body. We're going to be talking all about vaccines, more specifically the COVID vaccine and what it does and how it functions. And we're also going to be addressing a lot of people's concerns about the vaccine. And hopefully by the end of this video, a lot of your concerns will be addressed and you'll feel more confident to take the vaccine. But before we do all of this, I wanted to start off by just giving you guys some basic information about a cell and two important things, DNA and RNA. So let's get started. Okay, so first of all, let's start with talking about the cell. We have billions of cells in our body, and it's important for the survival of all living things. So let's just draw our cell like a circle. Now, usually it's not always a circle. Cells can be squared, or it can be rectangular, but in this cases, let's just make it circular. So cells have two main parts. It has the nucleus, and it also has the cytoplasm. And the cytoplasm is everything surrounding the nucleus. So it's everything that's outside of the nucleus. And in the cytoplasm, we have things called organelles. And these organelles have many different functions, such as storing energy or transporting proteins outside of the cell, or even transporting waste outside of the cell. But in this case, we're just going to be focusing on the nucleus. We're also going to be focusing on something called the endoplasmic reticulum and the ribosomes that are on top of it. Another important thing that we're going to be discussing is also DNA. And a lot of you guys might know what DNA is, but it is the genetic material that makes us who we are. And this is one of the most important things. No living thing can exist without DNA. So just because of its importance, I'm going to be going into a lot more detail of DNA. So first, let's talk about its structure. So DNA is made up of something called nucleotides. And nucleotides are made up of three parts. It has a phosphate group, a 5-carbon sugar, and it also has a nitrogenous base. Now, what's interesting about the nitrogenous base is that there are 4 of them. So there are 4 nitrogenous bases. There's adenine, there's thymine, there's cytosine, and there's also guanine. Adenine is paired with thymine and cytosine is paired with guanine. So to make you guys better understand this whole concept, you need to know that DNA is double-stranded, and the backbone, which is this, is made up of the phosphate and sugar group. And on the inside are the bases, and they're kind of arranged in like a ladder sort of way, like this. And for example, adenine may be here and thymine may be here. And since adenine is compatible with thymine, they're together, cytosine and guanine, and so on and so forth. So this is how DNA is. Another very important concept we need to talk about is RNA. Now, DNA and RNA are, they're very similar, but there are 2 main differences. RNA is, instead of being double-stranded, it's single-stranded, and instead of thymine, it has uracil. All that means is adenine will pair with uracil instead of thymine. So RNA is actually made from DNA, and the way it works is through a process called transcription. And this is just a fancy way of saying DNA copies itself. So let's say, for example, this tiny part of DNA is going to be replicated into RNA. And so the way it will work is this will become adenine, and this might become cytosine just because thymine is compatible with adenine and guanine is compatible with cytosine, and so on and so forth. And we'll just keep going on like that depending on how much of the DNA is going to be copied. So this is it. This is like the basics of DNA and RNA, its structure. And what I actually want to do is just make an analogy because it can be a little bit complicated. So I'm going to just compare DNA to a book. So let's say that it has 23 chapters. And the reason that I'm putting the specific number 23 is because each of our cells actually has 23 pairs of DNA. And let's say in total, these 23 chapters have 3 billion letters made up of 4 alphabets: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. And in case of your RNA, we're going to say uracil. But let's not worry about the uracil right now, since we're just talking about DNA. Now, as we all know, every book has words, right? Books make sentences which just convey meaning. Now, in terms of DNA, each word can only be made up of 3 letters. It can only be made up of 3 letters. And in scientific context, this is called a codon. So each of these words is a codon. And this is important because DNA has millions, and actually has billions of codons. So hopefully this analogy helps you better understand the concept of DNA. So now that we have discussed this, let's discuss its role, or DNA's function, and how RNA plays a role in it. So let's say this is our nucleus, and we have our DNA inside of it. Okay, so now let's come up with a scenario. Let's say you ate a lot of chocolate cake one day, and now your body needs to make insulin, which is a protein that just makes glucose. Now, in order to do this, your body needs to actually copy a piece of the DNA, but it can't copy a whole strand because a whole strand of DNA has so much information, only needs a little bit. So again, let's go back to the book analogy. Now, let's say you're going through a book and you need only this teeny bit of information. So let's say it's the 15th chapter, 3rd paragraph. Like that, let's say this DNA is the 15th chapter and this is maybe the 3rd paragraph in this context. Now, what will happen is you obviously have your base pairings. Through transcription, which we've discussed before, it will make something called mRNA. And once mRNA is made, it will come outside of the nucleus into the cytoplasm, and it will attach to the endoplasmic reticulum. And it actually goes on the ribosomes, which are on the endoplasmic reticulum. So the mRNA will go right on top of the ribosomes. And through a complex set of processes, which would take forever to explain, so I'm not going to go through all of that, amino acids come down. And there are 20 amino acids, and basically when amino acids are linked, they just make a protein. That's all you need to know. So maybe the circle is one amino acid, and the star is another, and the square is another, and it'll just keep linking together. And after it's finished, this makes a protein, and in this case, it's insulin. And after this protein or insulin will go outside the cell and do its job. So this is basically how this whole thing works. DNA gets copied, a piece of it gets copied into mRNA. mRNA comes out of the nucleus, the cytoplasm, on ribosomes, and the endoplasmic reticulum, and through a complex set of processes, it makes a protein, which can be used to do a lot of work. This is such a fascinating process that happens in such short amount of time. So now that we have all of this basic information, we can start talking about the COVID vaccine. So let's invite Dr. Rajesh Rangaswamy. Hi, Dr. Raj. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
So how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. So today we are going to be learning about the COVID vaccine, and I just wanted to let you know that I already went through some of the basics of the cell and DNA and RNA.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So what do you want to learn?
So I well, to start off, I just wanted to learn about the basics of the virus, like what it can do, how it attacks the body, and how it affects a person.
Okay, so let me share the screen.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so do you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So let's start with the virus. Okay.
Hmm.
So the virus is very, interesting concept. So what it has is a very simple element. It has got like, envelope and then a genetic material. So that's it. So it doesn't have, anything else. It's sometimes it's not even a considered, living being because it cannot reproduce itself. So it can only, it needs some host cell like a human or any animal cell to replicate itself. So otherwise it's dead. So some of the viruses got DNA, and some of the viruses has got just an RNA. So I'm sure you went through what is DNA, what is
Hmm.
RNA, and the beauty of this thing is the all the living beings as talk in a similar language in the terms of DNA. So our DNA code and RNA code and it's almost similar to the viral DNA and viral RNA, the code like the same like a basis like adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. So since we are talking about the coronavirus, let me tell what coronavirus is. It has got that envelope, and it's got some genetic material. No, this in this case it's RNA, and then it's a very specific spike proteins.
Hmm.
That's why this virus is called like a coronavirus. So that's the virus. So let me explain how it's affects our body. So imagine this virus there, and then this is our cell, right? This is our
Hmm.
nucleus. This is endoplasmic reticulum. So the virus comes, and it will. What it does is it goes to our specific receptor. It's like a key and lock mechanism.
Hmm.
So it has got this spike protein, and
Hmm.
then it's got the specific receptor. It attaches it. And
Hmm.
once it attaches, it'll come and releases its RNA.
Okay.
So its RNA is out. Endoplasmic reticulum thinks, okay, this is a code. So what
Hmm.
it does is it replicates itself. So it makes a lot of RNA, and then it makes a spike protein too. So it has got, it makes a spike protein. So then, RNA, spike protein. So once it's got all the elements of it, it creates, its own envelope, and it comes out. So it's like multiple viruses has come out, and then it'll go and affects the another cells. So it's just basically it attacks the cell, and then it'll destroy the cell, and then it will go and attack the other cells. So that's all the virus does to our body. So let me explain. Let me clear it. So there are, I think there's a four possibility. If virus attacks our cell, there is a four possibility. So the first possibility is, so imagine the virus comes, it goes to our body. So there is something called innate immunity. So people, human beings, has got the immunity. So immediately, so our immune cells, comes and attacks the virus, and then the virus cannot even get hold of us. So that's done. So we are the winner in the situation, right? So that's a
Hmm.
good outcome.
Yes.
So that's why not everyone gets the infection. The second thing is, imagine the virus comes, it goes to the body, right, and the cell, then it will go and start multiplying like what I explained. But we have some kind of an immunity there. Because of that, we don't even produce any symptoms. That means it doesn't even cause that much cells. So it just causes a little bit, it starts spreading, but it doesn't even produce any symptoms. So that's why the asymptomatic. I'm sure you heard the term asymptomatic carriers. So they're like viruses there. You can do the lab test. You can find the virus in their body, but it doesn't cause anything. In a couple of weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, body forms antibodies. That means body recognize this as a foreign protein, a foreign element, forms the antibodies, destroys the virus, and you are cured. Again, people will walking around this thing. The third outcome, the virus goes into the body, into the cells, and then it start multiplying. Our innate immunity is not enough. So that's why you start feeling, in this coronavirus, it affects our respiratory system specifically, So what happens is it started producing sore throat or breathlessness, you feel tired, all the symptoms start coming, or fevers. Then, you suffer for a couple of days to weeks. And then what happens? Our body thinks, okay, this is foreign body, we need to fight off. Then antibodies get formed, and then it kills the virus, and you get cured. That's what happens in 97% of the time. You get cured, but you have to go through the sickness phase. And then there is a fourth outcome. The virus is there, it enters to the body, and it does all those things. Our immune system is trying to fight, but it's not enough. So that's kind of an unfortunate situation, become very sick. Sometimes in this process, some people will die. So that's the kind of, how the virus, how it interacts with the body, with this 4 different things. Hopefully, most of the time, if we are in this first outcome, it's good. Immunity helps. The second outcome is also not very good, because this can even spread. You don't have a symptom, but it can start spreading. Okay. Did you, is it clear?
Yes, I learned a lot from this that I didn't know before. So thank you for that. So another question that I had was basically, what is a vaccine and how does it provide immunity, and what are the different types of vaccines?
Okay, so that's a good question. So the vaccine, so let me, this is easy to understand. Imagine, what we have is the virus comes, it goes to the cell, and it's a symptom, and takes 2 to 3 weeks, and our immunity takes over, right? So that's what it happens. So what if we kind of, we want to avoid the symptoms. So we don't want symptoms. What it coronavirus does, some people even dies from, we don't want that people develop any symptom, but we want the immunity. So we want to stop this, but we want immunity. So what are the ways? There are a couple of things we can do about it. So one thing is, the first method is take the virus, right? And then you just remove the main, the toxic effects. You just remove it. For example, you remove, take an example of a snake or anything. That the poison bag of it, the snake is not poisonous anymore. So the same concept. So you remove its toxic effects. So you give to the body, so it won't produce any symptoms, or it won't produce any sickness, but still the body kind of thinks it is a foreign substance. So start making of antibodies. Those antibodies are stays in our body, and it forms the memory cells. It's called memory T cells and B cells. So that stays. And then if a real virus comes with all this toxicity, but body remembers it, and then it attacks the virus and it kills it. So we don't even develop it. So that's the basic concept of the vaccine. So you give some live virus, and without any of its ill effects.
Okay.
The second method we can do is, instead of giving the the whole virus, you can give a part of the virus, right? So in this example, you can give, imagine we can give this just a spike protein, right? In the coronavirus, instead of giving the whole coronavirus, you just give the spike protein, but you cannot give the spike protein, through it. We need to have some kind of a carrier. So, take some other virus like a cold virus and then attach the spike protein and give to the body as a vaccine. And then that can form antibodies. And then that antibodies, if it forms against the spike protein, then what it does is the body remembers if the coronavirus enters again, it will kill the coronavirus, you won't get.
Okay.
The third possibility is the most interesting thing. So that's what I think you went through, DNA and RNA. So instead of making a spike, instead of giving the spike protein itself, and some intelligent scientists, they're thinking, why don't you, we can just give the RNA, the RNA which makes the spike protein. So that, what you do is take the RNA, which specifically make the spike protein. So don't, we are not giving anything else, just that particular segment of it. You have to give something like some kind of a, capsule, a liquid capsule, and then gives to the body. Then the body forms antibodies to it. So here, what happens is it goes to the, if you inject into your hand, and then our cells kind of thinks and captures it, and then it will go into the cell. The RNA will go into the cell. Endoplasmic reticulum makes spike proteins out of it. It's a beautiful thing. So you give the RNA, it goes to our cell, it makes the spike protein, and the spike protein goes there in our cells, and then body thinks, oh, this is not mine. So then it makes the antibodies. So the beauty of this is, since we are just giving the RNA, we are not giving any virus, so it does not cause any ill effects of the virus. So we are just giving the code to make the spike protein. And then we make, the antibodies that stays in our, the memory of the antibodies stays in our body. And then next time when the virus comes, boom, what happens? It'll make the antibody, it kills the virus. So that is why, the recent vaccine like a Pfizer and the Moderna, they have this technology, which is, creating the mRNA vaccine. So then that's one of the fascinating aspects of this vaccine technology. And the current vaccine they produce is a 95% effective. That means they did some kind of, and they did trials, and they proved, 95% of the time, those people who get the vaccine is not getting any infection. It's a very successful vaccine.
Okay, thank you so much. So basically in this, you just give like the virus's RNA, and then that makes the spike proteins and everything, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was also wondering, how long would the antibodies stay in the body?
Okay, so that question, it's an interesting question. So we don't know yet. The reason is, we are hoping, so this antibody stays forever. But at least for a year, or 2 years, so until the pandemic is over. So that's what we are hoping. But since it is we don't know yet, so we don't know clearly how long it's going to take. But I believe it's going to take long enough to give an immunity, and it will end the pandemic.
Okay, that's good news. So you kind of discussed this, or like the topic of this before, but a lot of people have been having concerns with the vaccine since it just came out so recently and so quickly. So a really common question is, has enough testing been done?
Yes, so the testing is, if you ask me, enough. Like normally what happens is, when they produce vaccines, sometimes it takes 10 years. So that's what we did, like, smallpox, we eradicated the smallpox, with the vaccine. So what we do is, we take and then we do the animal, laboratory a study, and then we'll do the animal study, then we do the human studies, like a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It takes for years, and it takes years to produce it. But right now we are in the middle of the pandemic, right? Right now we don't have enough time to do the study like that much. So we have to do this very fast to end this in the pandemic. But because the technology is also fascinating, so we could, our scientists believe the mRNA technology. So for, the mRNA technology is not completely a new concept. It's there, we've been developing this kind of a technology for the virus, vaccine, and even for cancer cells. But, it's not that much funding available. It's going, but because of this, coronavirus, we could able to, all the scientists, a lot of people put their energy and funding, so we could able to make this mRNA vaccine into reality very fast. And the testing also, the current testing, the people think, because mRNA itself, if you think, it's just a code, right? It's not the live virus. This mRNA is so safe. The scientists believe we did enough studies to make this vaccine is safe enough to give it to human beings and get this effect. So the current testing, as a doctor, I believe we did enough testing, to make it as in a reality.
Okay, so you're saying the mRNA vaccine is probably the safest form to put?
Yes, yes, it's the safest form, because we're not giving the live virus, we're not giving any other virus there, and the chances of, for example, even polio virus, that you may be some 1 in million of polio vaccinated people may develop a polio symptoms, because for some reason the live virus may have that toxicity and cause the symptom. But here it's just an mRNA, and that's not even going. That people thinks, okay, what is this mRNA? Can it goes to our gene again? So it is, mRNA is a one-way traffic. We get the mRNA, it goes into the cell, and it does only one job. What is it? It just goes to the endoplasmic reticulum, take the protein. Once it's done with the job, our cells are going to destroy that mRNA itself. That's not going to keep on making the spike protein, and then that's it. And then the spike protein does its job. So I think it is a very safe vaccine.
Okay, I'm sure that eases a lot of people's concerns.
Yes.
So another question going along with this are there any side effects like allergies or anything like that could occur?
Yes. There is a side effect. Unfortunately, anything what you do, just walking out, and lightning can come, driving, then accident, whatever you do, there are some, something can happen. So in this situation, so the mRNA itself, because of that small code, it's very, very unlikely mRNA itself is going to cause any issues, because like we mentioned earlier, mRNA code is universal. That's the beauty of it, right? Like adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine, uracil, like whatever there. So it is very less likely it's going to cause any problem. The problem may be the carrier, which is like we have to give some lipid, thing, and then when you give that, some people, there is substance called like a polyethylene glycol, like there is the people may have that material get exposed before, and body form the immunity for that particular lipid. So now we were giving the same thing, and then they get allergy. So you may get some allergic reaction called mild allergic reaction, or sometimes anaphylaxis. So I think the current Pfizer vaccine, I think 6 people, I may be wrong, in the US developed anaphylaxis. But this is not happening in home. That's why they're giving this vaccine in a setting where the nurses are capable of treating it, All you have to do is, get the vaccine, be there for 15 to 30 minutes. If you develop anaphylaxis, it's treatable. It's not a big deal. It's not, and it is very, very rare. It is not like, very rare to develop anaphylaxis. Even if you develop, it's treatable. The other side effects can happen. I put vaccine like a couple of weeks ago, pain in the arm. Like, I feel good, and I don't know how I'm on it. But, the pain, sometimes you get like a, fever, these kind of symptoms can happen. Virus, not everyone, but I think 80% people may develop it, but that will go away in couple of days. That's not a big deal.
Okay, so there's not too many things seriously to be concerned with.
Yeah, that's not too many.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So, what else would you say to people who are still like nervous to take the vaccine? Because there are a lot of people who don't want to take it immediately.
Yeah, so I kind of understand the concern of the vaccine. There are a lot of news out there. So what I think, what I suggest is, the information out there, you guys can, you can go and do the research. Then you understand why the mRNA vaccine is, fascinating. Why it's safe. So you yourself know about it. So you get kind of a clear mind. It is not a dangerous, to put the vaccine in your body. And also, I feel it's a social responsibility. In the sense, it's a safe, that's what the scientists are saying. The other thing is, there are some people, like an example, a newborn, or like a very, very immune compromised elderly or immune compromised people. We cannot put it to them. All right. So as a community, there's something called herd immunity. That means you have to have at least 60% people to be immune to the virus. In that way, the virus won't spread. So people have to, come forward and put the vaccine, and that will give enough immunity to the community. And then even those people, those who cannot have the, vaccine, they still have benefited because, they are surrounded with the people with the immunity. So I think it's very important, social, that's our ethical responsibility, a social responsibility to put the vaccine. And, the safety wise, the FDA and everyone, it kind of proved, they just approved it. They like this vaccine. So, I think, the concern is not necessary. I think we should all take that, first step to end the pandemic.
So we should trust the people who tested it and are telling us that
Yes, we should trust authority, and they're all like, without a test, the FDA and CDC, they won't recommend it. So this is a combined human, the war against this COVID. We need to be. I'm very glad I put the vaccine and participate in the war. So I'm like fighting against it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you should do too.
Yes, I will.
And if they're ready, and if they say, you should do, you should.
Yes, I definitely will. Okay. So another, I think, important question is, what is the future of the mRNA vaccine? People are saying that there's going to be like a new version of the coronavirus. So how, I guess, effective will the vaccine be long term?
Yes, now, in England, in London, a couple of weeks ago, they found a new strain, new strain. So the viruses does it all the time. So what happens, the virus is a so simple RNA, like we went through this, it can change one of the code, and then it will become, a different kind of, not entirely different kind of a virus. So in this case, what the research, I read in, some article, they found out this virus as kind of able to, imagine this is a spike protein and this is the receptor. It's before it was little loose, now it's a little bit tighter. So it's able to get hold of it more tighter. And then because of that, it's able to more, transmit 50% more, transmissible than before. But the beauty is, this is the beauty. the virus spike protein is still there. So we made antibodies to spike protein, right? So as long as the spike protein virus is making the spike protein, we have the antibodies, it's going to kill. Okay. But there is a possibility the virus is mutate itself, it'll become a different spike protein like this, and it'll find a different receptor to enter, and then our antibody won't work. It's possible, I'm not telling no, but current strain, that possibility is very, very rare. But at least for, our current mutated strain, it is not like this. So the vaccine is going to work. The only thing is the virus is going to spread. So what does it say? It says we still follow these rules. We don't want the virus to be, if you're not immune, or if you're vaccinated, it's a different story. But if you're not vaccinated, the thing is you still have to follow the rule. Rule number one, social distancing. Rule number two is like, mask and gloves and wash your hands, so you follow this so that we can just first step of, we can avoid the virus getting into our body.
Okay, thank you. So I was also wondering, when will we get the vaccine? I know you got it because you're a frontline worker, but when will others in the community probably get it?
Yes, so this vaccine, making a vaccine, so we need to vaccinate almost like 7 billion people, right? Like everyone. So it is a big process. It's going to take some time,
Okay.
But a developed country like United States, and we are fortunate to get this vaccine. So I'm thinking it might be 6 months before we all get the vaccine, and hopefully the vaccine is available to even less developed countries. So in that way, the whole world will get the vaccine. The other things I didn't mention it. The mRNA vaccine is not only the mRNA itself. So the future, virus itself, we can make mRNAs to the cancer cells. So that's the beauty of it. Like, so what we can do is, take the cancers like lung cancer, that antigen, then you make an mRNA for that antigen, give it to the body. So body makes that particular antigen, not the cancer cells. Antibodies are formed, it will go and attack the cancer cells. So the immunotherapy. So it's a lot of things is possible. There's already treatments out there. So the mRNA technology, I think it's going to change the way the medicine is practiced. The vaccine is, how we, so the next pandemic, we can able to produce this vaccine quickly, and we don't even, we can stop the pandemic in the beginning itself.
Okay, so there's a lot of potential with the mRNA vaccine.
Yes, there is a lot of potential, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I know you already addressed this earlier with wearing masks, goggles, washing hands, but what else can we do to reduce the spread of the coronavirus?
Yes, so this being basically being socially responsible. That's it. Because it is sometimes young people thinks they are like immune and they don't have to, but the young people, they are the one, they're like I mentioned, they may be asymptomatic carriers, right? So it's so that everyone has to be responsible to stop its spread. So the same thing, social distancing, avoid going out or anything like unnecessarily before pandemic. We already got the vaccine. It's only a few more months, and then just do this, and then wash your hands, use the mask, and goggles, and finally vaccinate.
Okay.
That's the same thing. Like if it's available for your group, in your age, in your system, then don't think twice. Just go and vaccinate, and then that will end the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. And I think that's it. That concludes the discussion. Thank you so much. It was so interesting to learn about like the mRNA vaccine and how it's so special and interesting. I didn't know about any of this stuff before. So thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people learn a lot. And now I think people will feel a little bit more confident to get the vaccine with everything that you said.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
All right, wow. I think we can all agree that we learned a lot today about viruses, vaccines, and more specifically, the mRNA vaccine. We learned about how special the mRNA vaccine specifically is and how it's the safest form of a vaccine. So after hearing all of this information, I hope all of your concerns have been addressed and now you feel more confident to go get vaccinated. So that's it. Please give this a huge thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I will see you guys next time in an interesting video, in another interesting video. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, thank you. Bye.